In this episode of The Design Tourist, I travel to Egypt to explore the country's iconic archaeological sites along the Nile on a 4-day cruise filled with fascinating stories of gods, glories, conquests, and civilizations that shaped modern-day Egypt and produced some of the world's greatest works of art and architecture. I flew into Cairo and met up with Cairo Transport and Touring, my guides on a 10-day tour of the country. As a woman traveling alone in the Middle East, I wanted peace of mind. I wanted to feel safe and secure, so I was free to absorb and learn and experience all that Egypt had to offer. That's why I chose to go with an experienced tour company that had local English-speaking guides and a dedicated security guard to accompany my group everywhere. I traveled to Egypt in April 2022 during Ramadan, a month-long religious observance for Islam, the official religion of Egypt. During this month, the faithful fast from sunup to sundown and pray 5 times a day. I flew from the Cairo domestic airport to Aswan on Egypt Air to board a 4-night Nile River cruise on the Blue Shadow. It's an ideal way to explore many of Egypt's important archaeological sites. As we head into the city, we stop to admire the Aswan High Dam across the Nile River. It was built over an 11-year period, completed in 1970. The dam spans more than 2 miles long and ended the cycle of flood and drought in the Nile River region. It also created Lake Nasser. It's the largest human-made lake in the world, flowing through Egypt and Sudan. The High Dam controls the country's supply and demand of water and powers turbines that generate Egypt's main source of electricity. Lake Nasser is the Nile River's entrance into southern Egypt. Construction of the High Dam would have flooded many monuments, so the Egyptian government and UNESCO worked together to relocate 16 temples by moving them to higher ground. This engineering feat moved the Philae Temple stone by stone, some 50,000 stones in total, to its current home. And Aswan is Egypt's southernmost city. It's about 600 miles outside of Cairo, and I'm here at the Temple of Philae. Now, this temple was actually built by the Greeks, not the Egyptians, and it was built to honor the Egyptian goddess of love, Isis. Philae Temple holds the last known hieroglyphic writing dating to 394 AD. It's known as the Graffito of Esmet Akum, and it's carved on the wall of the Temple of Isis at the Philae complex. Hieroglyphics remained a language for 2,500 years, ending when the Ptolemy family, that's Cleopatra's family, took over Egypt. Philae Temple dates back to 285 BC as a tribute to Isis, the mother of the god Horus. The Temple of Isis was one of the last Egyptian temples to remain active and functioned until the reign of the Byzantine Emperor Justinian I in 565 AD, who ordered the closure of all pagan temples. The temple was then converted into a Christian church, and many inscriptions were deliberately destroyed. That evening, our cruise departs on the Blue Shadow boat for a 4-night trip down the Nile. The cruise entertains passengers with nightly performances of whirling dervishes. It's a Turkish dance on the UNESCO list of intangible cultural heritage. Whirling dervish originated as a religious dance in 1273. Today, secularized dancers perform for public entertainment. The next morning, we wake up early for a 3-hour bus ride to the Abu Simbel Temple near Egypt's southern border. About an hour into our drive through the desert, A blinding sandstorm engulfs the highway. Our driver makes it through, getting us there safely, but the experience reminds me of travel's unexpected challenges. From March to May, a sandstorm called Hamsing blows through the Egyptian desert, creating highway hazards. So this is the famous Abu Simbel Temple. It was built by King Ramses II in 1264. There are two temples here, one for King Ramses himself, and the other one next door for his queen, Queen Nefertari. Now, this is one of Egypt's longest ruling kings. He ruled for more than 60 years, and he lived till the ripe old age of 90. Now, what's most fascinating about this entire site is that it was relocated. It was in another part of Aswan that was in a flood zone after they dammed the Nile River. And it was relocated through a UNESCO World Heritage Project in cooperation with the Egyptian government. So literally, stone by stone, block by block, this entire temple complex was rebuilt and relocated. The Abu Simbel Temple stands as a symbol of Egyptians' power over the Nubians. 4 massive seated statues of King Ramses dominates its facade, one of which collapsed during an ancient earthquake. The Egyptians believed that the tombs were portals to the afterlife and covered their walls with scenes of hunting and fishing and other provisions needed in the afterlife. So you can see all around me how well preserved these paintings and stone carvings are. The details are incredible, and the colors. And this is what sets the temples apart from the pyramids. So the pyramids are very simplistic in design. They don't have the ornamentation and the artwork that you see here in the temples. Abu Simbel is an amazing feat of engineering, built as a timekeeping temple along the axis of the sun. Twice a year, on February 22nd and October 22nd, the sun's rays enter the temple, cross the main hall, and illuminate the innermost statues. So as the sun sets on the Nile, I'm taking a tour of the temple Kom Ombo. It means in Egyptian, heap of gold, and it was built by the Greeks to honor 2 Egyptian gods in 205 BC. It's remarkably well preserved with a lot of intricate artwork and carvings in stone. The temple at Kom Ombo was built mainly during the Greek and Roman period from about 180 to 47 BC, and it sits along a stretch of the Nile River that was once infested with crocodiles. The double temple serves 2 gods, Sobek, the crocodile god, and Horus, the falcon-headed god. Each side of Kom Ombo has its own entry and chapel.
So in that time, there were a lot of crocodiles in the Nile River in this area. People were afraid to go to the river because of the crocodiles. So they decided to worship the crocodile to avoid its harm and danger. It became the main god here, was called God Sobek. But they found something shameful to worship this god only because an evil god. You want to worship beside him a nice god, a kind god. So they worshipped another god. It's called God Herwer, or Horus the Elder, one of the forms of God Horus, the falcon god. According to mythology, it is said that Sobek refused to be worshipped with other gods. He wanted to be only by himself here, and he forced Horus to leave, Herwer to leave the town. And because he was a kind god, was beloved by everybody, all people left with him. And nobody was here to cultivate the land, the fields. So Sobek had to use his magic. He woke up the dead people from the cemetery to cultivate the land. And because they are dead people, they are zombies, they don't know what they are doing. So instead of throwing seeds, they threw sand, and all land became desert. So he had to call back Herwer, and they made a judgment court, and they came up with a solution to divide the temple into 2 sides. The right side, dedicated to Sobek, the main god here, the crocodile, and the left side dedicated to god Herwer or Horus the Elder. So if you notice here we have two gates, not only one gate. You have the symbol of protection twice, one here, one there. One on the top of this gate for Sobek, one on the top of this gate for Herwer, Horus the Elder. You see the symbol of protection, the sun, two cobras and two wings.
What strikes me as I tour these temples is the ancient Egyptians' appreciation and celebration of physical beauty.
You never see somebody ugly or fat, all perfect. You see the king is wearing a long garment, but transparent, to show the legs, to show the muscles of his legs, the knees. The ladies are wearing a very tight dress to show the beauty of their body. Yeah, you see they show the body from profile to show the toes and the tails, and then with profile you never see a belly button. How you can see the belly button? It should be from the front. It's not a mistaken art. They do this in purpose. They want to show every organ in the body in the best way. They show profile from the face from profile, but they show full eye. You never see a full eye from side. But this is not also a mistaken art. They want, as I told you, show every organ of the body in its best way.
That night, we set sail for Edfu and Luxor to visit more ancient archaeological sites. It's Egyptian night on the cruise, so I put on a traditional dress and I head to dinner, followed by another spectacular show. This one is a belly dance performance. At sunrise, a horse carriage picks us up from the dock, winding through the streets of Edfu to the Horus Temple.
Hashtag Team No Sleep is up before sunrise, exploring ruins, but actually about 3 hours of sleep.
So today we are visiting the Temple of Edfu. It was built by the Greeks to honor the god Horus. He's a falcon god. Interesting story. This was built in 237 BC, and it actually was only occupied for a few years before the Romans came. The temple was lost to history, buried under sand until 1860, when a French archaeologist uncovered and restored parts of the temple. Today, it stands as one of Egypt's largest and best preserved archaeological sites. I entered the temple through a massive pylon or gateway standing 130 feet high with two tapering towers. Two large granite statues of the falcon god Horus stand on either side of the entrance. Inside, a courtyard surrounded by 3 sides and 32 columns leads to the Great Hall, supported by giant pillars adorned with intricate reliefs. Inside the hall, walls and ceilings display ornate depictions of Horus with a human body and a falcon head, astronomical signs, and hieroglyphics. According to Egyptian mythology, Horus was the ruler of the skies and the child of Isis and Osiris. His temple served as an important place of worship until 391 AD, when the Roman emperor issued an edict banning paganism throughout the Roman Empire. The Temple of Edfu spans 3 halls with a sanctuary and several smaller chambers to explore. Our next stop is Luxor, which has 1/3 of the world's monuments. We're here at the Karnak Temple. It's actually a vast complex of temples. It was built over 1,000 years by many kings, and it's dedicated to the Egyptian god Amara. Karnak Temple spans 247 acres and holds Egypt's largest collection of temple ruins. It was built and modified over thousands of years by pharaohs, Muslims, and Christians who all worship there at different times. Karnak Temple resides on the east bank of the Nile, outside the walls of Thebes, the once royal capital of Egypt, during the New Kingdom, about 1539 to 1075 BC. Today it's known as Luxor. Karnak, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, chronicles ancient Egyptian history and architecture for over 2,000 years, from the Middle Kingdom to the Roman period. It served as a primary worship center for the god Amara, the god of sun and air. His temple is the largest in the complex. Our next stop, the Luxor Temple. It's located in the city center of Luxor, and it was built by King Ramses II. Now, the Luxor Temple connects to the Karnak Temple through the famous Avenue of Sphinxes. It's a byway, a passageway that's lined with 1,300 sphinxes, and in November 2021, it was restored. King Ramses II, as an homage to himself, erected 2 towering statues at the temple entrance. Also, 2 80-foot-tall obelisks originally stood at the entrance until the 19th century when Egypt gifted France one of the obelisks, which now stands in the Place de la Concorde in France, along the Champs-Élysées. Today, remains of this vast complex include the Great Colonnade Hall that's decorated by King Tutankhamun around 1330 BC. Now, many of the temple's sidewalls were torn down over the years by the pharaohs and recycled for building material. At night, Luxor lights up. All its stone carvings and statues are aglow, bathed in lights against the dark sky, and it's a surreal sight to see. From the Luxor Temple, I walk along the Avenue of Sphinxes. It's the ancient road from Karnak Temple to Luxor Temple, lined with more than 1,300 stone sphinxes. Sphinx Avenue was built by ancient Egyptian kings between the 18th dynasty and the 30th dynasty as a religious byway for sacred ceremonies and festivals. The next morning, another very early wake-up call to head out for a hot air balloon ride at sunrise. All right, now this turned out to be an adrenaline-pumping adventure, and you'll learn why in just a moment. In the early morning darkness, I watch the glowing balloons expand as flames flash and hiss, pumping hot air to inflate them. My heart races as the breathtaking scene unfolds. I'm a little nervous. I feel vulnerable. This is my first hot air balloon ride. But once we lift off and float above the ground and into the clouds, my mind calms and peace washes over me. The sky is peppered with colorful balloons gliding over the landscape of farms and the Nile River Valley. I watch the sunrise bathing the landscape in daylight. And soon it's time to turn back. Suddenly I start to feel the balloon swaying with the wind. The pilot is struggling to land as the wind carries our balloon off course. And then we land with a thud. Our basket tips over to its side, toppling all of the passengers. I climb out onto the ashen-covered croplands as nearby farmers rush to our rescue. Suffice it to say, if you are an adventure seeker, a hot air balloon ride is a wild ride. But if you're not a risk taker, maybe pass on this excursion. We take a break to catch our breath and regroup and head over to the Nile's west bank near modern-day Luxor to explore the Valley of the Kings, the burial site for Egypt's New Kingdom pharaohs. So we are here at Valley of the Kings. Now, unlike the pyramids, the tombs of these Egyptian kings are buried underneath. So you can see around you the mountains, they're actually carved in the mountains. The kings that are buried here are from the 18th through the 22nd dynasties. And these Egyptian kings realized that, well, to be buried in a pyramid means it's likely that thieves will rob and pilfer your tomb. So they got wise and they decided to build those tombs underground. Valley of the Kings served as an underground mausoleum for Egyptian royals from 1539 to 1075 BC. These secret underground tombs were carved into the mountains to protect royal burial sites. Most were robbed before the end of the 20th dynasty, looting all treasures and items needed in the afterlife, except for one significant tomb. a discovery that captured the imagination of the world and taught us much about ancient Egypt. There are 66 underground tombs here at Valley of the Kings, and the most famous is right behind me. That is a tomb of Tutankhamun. Tutankhamun was discovered over a 5-year period starting in 1917, and it's so well preserved and perhaps the most famous Egyptian king tomb because it was actually buried underneath King Ramses VI's tomb. King Tutankhamun is known as the Boy King, who ruled beginning in 1332 BC for about a decade before dying young. His tomb lay undiscovered until 1922, when archaeologist Howard Carter excavated it, unearthing more than 5,000 treasures, including a solid gold coffin, bejeweled chestplate, and a golden death mask. Next, we visit the temple of Queen Hatshepsut. She was a part of the 18th dynasty, so we're talking around 1400 BC. Now, this female pharaoh ruled Egypt for 22 years. After her husband died, she stole the throne from her stepson. Now, when she passed on, the stepson was so upset with her, he took the throne and then subsequently went and destroyed and defaced her monuments. What's really unique about this temple, unlike all other Egyptian temples, is the architecture. The queen wanted something different, so notice the terrace design. According to legend, Queen Hatshepsut dressed like a man and claimed she was of divine birth. She made her tomb in the Valley of the Kings. Now, her triple terrace temple resides on the west bank of Luxor. Papyrus and perfume are two popular products produced in Egypt. And one of my favorite souvenirs is a bottle of essential oil from the lotus flower, a symbol of Upper Egypt. I purchased it at a perfume shop in Aswan. My other favorite find is a piece of papyrus with my name painted on it and hieroglyphics from the Papyrus Museum and Shop in Cairo. Papyrus is a symbol of Lower Egypt. There's so much to experience in Egypt, so if you're planning to go, this is what you should know. You need at least 10 days to explore its major highlights. Egypt has a cash-based tourism industry, so many places don't take credit cards. Tipping? Well, it's expected everywhere and, in my opinion, excessive and not necessarily earned. If you visit during Ramadan, keep in mind that many of the establishments do not keep regular hours or they are closed altogether during the month-long holiday. Now, the dates of Ramadan vary each year, so check before planning your trip. Also, Cairo is a busy, bustling city with a lot of traffic. Getting around takes time, so plan accordingly.
To come to Egypt to experience not only the ancient history, but there are a lot to be discovered about the Egyptian character, way of life. We are, as people, we are a very welcoming by nature. We were used to live by the Nile, where everything was available, water and food. So we were very comfortable. We did not feel at any time any kind of challenge by strangers or foreigners, because everything was available and was enough for us and for even more. So that's implemented in our character, the love of visitors and the love of foreigners. You will find one of very few really very welcoming population that would take you. You will be amazed of their generosity and their welcoming feelings. There is a lot to be discovered in this area. As well, there is a lot to be discovered and known about the modern Egypt.
Ancient Egyptians had a distinct sense of style and a deep appreciation for beauty that still resonates today in jewelry, fashion, art, design, and architecture. As humans, we have a biological imperative to express ourselves through art and creative works that spark joy, chronicle our lives, and convey our beliefs. Egypt has gifted the world with one of the greatest artistic legacies. I say goodbye to Egypt from its ancient civilizations to its modern-day culture and return home with a new way of being and seeing the Middle East. Until the Design Tourist travels again, stay curious and stay inspired.